She just wanted to fill her tank, but instead, she found herself surrounded and attacked. What do you do when no one steps in to help and danger feels inevitable? Then, someone unexpected changed everything. Find out how this unforgettable night took a shocking turn. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. More jaw-dropping stories are on the way. The dark highway stretched into the distance, dimly lit by sparse streetlights. A small gas station stood in solitude, its neon sign flickering in the night. John Cena, world-famous wrestler and actor, drove his large black SUV into the lot. It had been a long, exhausting day on set, and all he wanted was to refuel and get home. As he pulled up to a pump, he noticed a group of bikers loitering near their motorcycles. 4 men in leather jackets were laughing loudly, their boisterous voices cutting through the quiet night. Their bikes were parked haphazardly, blocking one of the fuel pumps, as if claiming the place as their own. John glanced at them but decided to mind his business, stepping out to begin fueling his car. Moments later, a silver sedan pulled into the station, catching everyone's attention. A young black woman stepped out, her confident demeanor masking the unease in her movements. She walked to the pump next to John's, avoiding eye contact with the bikers. Her stylish car glinted under the lights, making her an easy target for attention. The leader of the bikers, a tall man with a scruffy beard, nudged one of his friends and chuckled. "Look what we've got here," he said loudly, his voice dripping with mockery. A little birdie flew in. One of the bikers snorted. "And driving a car like that? Hey, sweetheart, are you sure you know how to pump gas, or do you need some help?" The woman ignored them, focusing on her task. Her hands trembled slightly as she unscrewed the gas cap, but she kept her face impassive. The leader of the group sauntered closer, his boots clanking against the asphalt. "Hey, girl," he called out again, louder this time. "Did you steal that car, or did you earn it another way?" His lips curled into a cruel smirk as his friends erupted into laughter. The woman stiffened, but didn't look at him. She finished attaching the nozzle and started fueling her car, pretending she couldn't hear the taunts. Her silence only emboldened the men. "What's the matter?" the leader pressed. "Too good to talk to us? Smile for us, or maybe we'll make you smile ourselves." Another biker piped up, his voice filled with false sympathy. "Poor thing looks scared. Don't worry, darling, we're friendly. We'll even teach you how to pump gas properly, maybe show you some tricks with the hose." The woman finished fueling and moved to get into her car, desperate to leave. But as she reached for the door, one of the bikers stepped in front of it, blocking her way. "Where do you think you're going?" he said, folding his arms over his chest. "We're not done with you yet." "Please move," the woman said firmly, though her voice wavered slightly. "I don't want any trouble." The leader stepped closer, towering over her. "Trouble? Oh no, sweetie, we're just having some fun. You don't want to spoil the party, do you?" Another biker grabbed her arm, his grip rough. "Come on, baby, don't be shy. Let's take a little ride. It'll be fun for all of us." The woman yanked her arm away, panic flashing across her face. Without thinking, she grabbed the gas pump nozzle and sprayed gasoline into the face of the man who had grabbed her. He screamed, stumbling backward and rubbing his eyes. "You bitch!" he roared. "You're gonna pay for that." The leader snarled, pulling out a lighter from his pocket. "Hold her, boys," he ordered. 2 bikers grabbed her arms, ignoring her struggles. The leader flicked the lighter open and smirked. "Time for a little fire show," he said, stepping closer. "We're going to give you a night you'll never forget." As the woman's eyes widened in terror, a calm, commanding voice rang out. "Let her go." The bikers turned to see John Cena stepping forward, his massive frame illuminated by the station's dim lights. He looked calm but resolute, his eyes locked on the leader. "Who the hell are you?" the leader barked, still holding the lighter. "Stay out of this, tough guy, unless you want to get burned." John removed his baseball cap and set it on the hood of his SUV. "I'm just a guy who doesn't like seeing cowards gang up on someone," he said, his voice steady and firm. "Now, let her go before you regret it." The bikers laughed, their arrogance showing. One of them sneered, "You think you're some kind of hero? This ain't a movie, pal." John took another step forward, his calm demeanor unwavering. "No, it's not a movie," he said, "but I'm still going to make sure you regret messing with her." The tension crackled in the air as the bikers sized him up, their sneers masking the slight hesitation in their movements. The stage was set for a confrontation, and John Cena was more than ready. The laughter of the bikers grew louder as they turned their attention back to the woman, ignoring John Cena's warning. The leader smirked and waved his lighter threateningly, while one of the bikers leaned down to inspect the gasoline dripping off his jacket. "You really shouldn't have done that, sweetheart," he said with venom in his voice. "Now you made us mad." He stomped his boot hard against the side of her car, leaving a noticeable dent, and laughed cruelly as she flinched. Another biker joined in, dragging the edge of a knife along the car door, the sharp metal screeching against the paint. "Oops, guess your fancy car isn't so fancy anymore," he mocked. The woman, trapped between her fear and anger, tried to pull free, but the bikers held her firmly. The leader grabbed her chin roughly, forcing her to look him in the eyes. "I told you to smile," he growled, "or do you need some help?" His fingers dug into her skin as he leaned closer. "You're not going anywhere until we're done having our fun." One of the others laughed and sprayed a small puddle of gasoline near her feet, grinning wickedly. "How about we warm things up for you a bit, huh? Maybe a little fire will get you to cooperate." The sound of John Cena clearing his throat snapped the group's attention back to him. He had stepped closer, his expression calm but deadly serious. "You've got about 3 seconds to back off," he said, his voice low and steady, "or I'm going to show you what happens to cowards who think they can bully someone." The leader snorted and turned to face John fully. "Oh, tough guy wants to play hero, huh? You think you're going to stop us? This isn't some wrestling ring, buddy. You don't have a referee to save you here." John didn't flinch. He crossed his arms over his chest and tilted his head slightly. "No referee needed," he said. "I've handled tougher guys than you without breaking a sweat. You're just a bunch of pathetic losers picking on someone who can't fight back." The insult hit its mark. The leader's grin faltered for a split second before twisting into a snarl. "You've got a big mouth for someone about to get their ass kicked," he snapped. "Boys, teach this clown a lesson." One of the bikers lunged at John, swinging wildly. John sidestepped with ease and landed a sharp elbow to the man's ribs, sending him staggering back with a gasp. "That's it," John said, his voice dripping with mockery. "I expected more from someone who acts so tough." The second biker charged in with a chain, swinging it in a wide arc. John caught the chain mid-swing, yanked it out of the man's hands, and tossed it aside. Before the biker could react, John slammed him to the ground with a powerful shoulder tackle. "You guys are embarrassing yourselves," John said, glancing at the remaining bikers. "Is this really all you've got?" The leader growled in frustration and pulled out a knife, pointing it at John. "You think you're funny, huh? Let's see how funny you are with this." He rushed at John, but John caught his wrist with lightning speed and twisted it, forcing the knife to clatter to the ground. "A knife? Really?" John said, shaking his head. "That's the best you could come up with? Pathetic." The leader yelped in pain as John twisted his arm further before shoving him back into the gas pump. The last biker, seeing his friends sprawled on the ground, turned to run, but John grabbed the back of his jacket and yanked him off his feet. "Where do you think you're going?" John asked, dropping him onto the asphalt. "You were so brave a minute ago." By the end of it, all 4 bikers were on the ground, groaning in pain. John stood over them, his imposing figure casting a long shadow. He looked down at the leader, who was clutching his arm and glaring up at him. "You're nothing but a pack of cowards," John said coldly. "You don't scare anyone. You don't even respect yourselves, do you? If you did, you wouldn't be acting like this." He turned his attention to the woman who was standing by her car, still shaken but unharmed. "Are you okay?" he asked, his tone softening. She nodded, her voice trembling as she said, "Yes, thank you." The sound of approaching sirens broke the tension. Someone had called the police, and the flashing lights could be seen in the distance. John glanced back at the bikers, who were too injured and humiliated to move. "Looks like the show's over," he said. "Time for you guys to face the consequences." As the police cars pulled into the station, John stepped back, letting the officers handle the rest. The bikers' reign of terror had come to an abrupt and humiliating end. The scene grew tense as John Cena stood tall among the chaos, the bikers groaning on the ground, their arrogance replaced by fear and pain. The leader of the group, still clutching his arm, tried to push himself up, his face contorted in a mixture of anger and humiliation. "You think you've won, huh?" he spat, his voice shaking. "You're just a meathead who got lucky." John stepped closer, towering over him, and stared down with an icy glare. "Lucky?" he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "The only thing lucky here is that I didn't break every bone in your body, you pathetic excuse for a man. You think you're tough because you pick on women, because you trash someone's car and throw around empty threats. Let me tell you something, you're nothing but a coward hiding behind your gang of equally useless idiots." The other bikers, still sprawled on the ground, winced at the harshness of John's words, their bravado completely shattered. One of them, nursing his ribs after John's earlier strike, tried to interject. We were just messing around, man. No need to get all serious." His voice wavered, betraying the fear he was trying to mask. John turned his attention to him, his eyes narrowing. "Messing around? You call threatening to light someone on fire messing around? You call grabbing a woman and damaging her car fun? No, you weren't messing around. You were proving to everyone here just how pathetic and worthless you really are." He gestured toward the leader with a sharp motion. "And you're the worst of them all, leading your little pack of bottom feeders like you're some kind of king when, in reality, you're just a sad, insecure bully." The leader clenched his jaw, his face flushing with anger and shame. "You don't know anything about me," he growled, trying to reclaim some shred of dignity. "You don't know what I've been through." John snorted, unimpressed. "You're right, I don't. And you know what? I don't care. Whatever you've been through doesn't give you the right to act like this. Life's tough for everyone, but only the weak take their frustrations out on people who've done nothing to them. You had a choice, and you chose to be a piece of garbage. So don't expect anyone to feel sorry for you now." The woman, who had been standing near her car, still shaken but now visibly calmer, watched the exchange with wide eyes. John glanced at her and gave a reassuring nod before turning back to the bikers. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, his voice firm and commanding. "The police are on their way, and you're all going to sit here like the pathetic losers you are until they arrive. If any of you even think about trying to run, I'll make sure you regret it." One of the younger bikers, his face pale and bruised, raised a trembling hand in surrender. Okay, we get it," he stammered. "We're done. Just don't hit us again." John smirked, shaking his head in disbelief. "Now you're begging? Typical. You were so brave when you thought no one would stand up to you. Funny how that works, isn't it?" He crouched down slightly, his gaze boring into the leaders. "You should take a long, hard look at yourself and figure out how you ended up here, beaten, humiliated, and completely exposed for what you really are." The sound of approaching sirens echoed through the night, growing louder with each passing second. John straightened up and looked around at the gathering crowd of bystanders, many of whom were recording the scene on their phones. "Make sure the cops see those videos," he called out to them. "These guys deserve every bit of justice coming their way." As the flashing lights of the police cars filled the lot, John stepped back, allowing the officers to take over. The bikers were quickly apprehended, their protests and excuses falling on deaf ears. The woman approached John cautiously, her voice soft but steady. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her eyes glistening with gratitude. John smiled gently, his tone kind but firm. "You don't need to thank me. Just promise me one thing. Don't ever let people like them scare you into silence. Stand your ground no matter what." She nodded, her expression resolute. "I will." As the police led the bikers away, John turned back to his SUV and adjusted his baseball cap. He glanced at the crowd one last time and gave them a slight wave before getting into his car. The onlookers erupted into cheers, some calling out his name, but John remained humble, starting his engine and driving off into the night. For him, it wasn't about the recognition, it was about doing the right thing. As the bikers were handcuffed and led away by the police, their bravado completely stripped, the crowd of bystanders began murmuring among themselves, some still recording on their phones, others quietly discussing the incredible scene they had just witnessed. John Cena stood by his SUV, his imposing frame now relaxed, though his sharp eyes still scanned the scene to ensure everything was under control. The young woman, still shaken but visibly stronger than before, approached him cautiously. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke, her voice filled with gratitude. "I don't even know how to begin thanking you," she said softly. "If you hadn't been here—" John turned to her with a calm but reassuring expression, his voice steady and sincere. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what anyone should do. But remember this, you're stronger than you think. Don't let scum like them ever make you feel powerless." His words carried a weight that resonated deeply, and she nodded, a small but determined smile forming on her lips. One of the officers approached John, clearly recognizing him but maintaining a professional demeanor. "Mr. Cena, thank you for stepping in. From what we've seen on the videos, you might have saved her life tonight." The officer glanced at the young woman, then back at John. "We'll make sure these guys face the full consequences." John gave a slight nod, his gaze momentarily drifting to the bikers as they were loaded into the back of the squad cars. "Good," he said simply. "They need to learn that their actions have consequences." As the police began wrapping up, a few members of the crowd gathered closer, cautiously approaching John. "Hey, man, that was incredible," one of them said, his phone still in hand. "You really are a hero, just like in the movies." John chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I'm no hero," he replied. "I'm just a guy who doesn't like seeing injustice. If you see someone in trouble, don't hesitate to step up. We all have the power to make a difference." The young woman stepped forward again, her voice firmer now. "You didn't just stop them. You showed me that I don't have to be afraid. That means more than you know." John placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, his smile warm but understated. "Fear only wins if you let it. Remember that. And don't forget, you're not alone. There are always people who'll stand by you." The conversation was interrupted by the sound of a car horn. One of the onlookers waved to John, clearly hoping for a quick photo or handshake. John gave a polite wave back, but kept his focus on the woman for a moment longer. "Take care of yourself," he said finally, "and if you ever see someone else in trouble, do what you can to help. That's how we make things better." She nodded, her smile now stronger and more genuine. "I will." As John turned back to his SUV, the crowd erupted into applause, some shouting his name, others simply cheering. He gave them a small wave before climbing into the driver's seat and starting the engine. The headlights illuminated the now empty lot as he drove away, leaving behind a sense of awe and inspiration among those who had witnessed his actions. The videos of the incident quickly went viral, flooding social media with praise for John Cena's bravery and humility. People shared the story far and wide, calling him a real-life hero and a symbol of standing up for what's right. But for John, it wasn't about the recognition. As he drove down the quiet highway, his thoughts were already elsewhere, focused on the belief that anyone, no matter who they are, can make a difference when it matters most. Justice was served, proving that even one person can make a difference. What would you have done in the hero's place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.